What's up, sports fans? This is the Lucas Ross Sports Channel. We continue with our 2025 predictions for the upcoming 2025 college football season. Up next is the Kansas Jayhawks. Of course, the Jayhawks coming off a pretty disappointing season last year in 2024. They missed out on a bowl game last year, going 5-7, which doesn't seem bad, but it's definitely a disappointing year for a team that was expected to do a whole lot last year, and they were absolutely to be a top contender in the Big 12 last season, but the Big 12 ended up being tougher than we thought last year for some of these other teams that did not make it to a bowl game. My thoughts on this team before we get into the predictions for 2025. I think this team is going to turn things around in 2025. You look at the quarterback position, they got Jalen Daniels coming back at that quarterback spot. If he stays healthy, then he could probably be one of the best quarterbacks in the Big 12 and probably in the country as well. Really, the only concern that I have on the offensive side of the football for this team is probably the offensive line. They don't have a ton of depth there, but I do like the additions that they've added in the transfer portal, and that goes for the defense as well. They added a ton of guys from the portal. Defensively, the secondary, that could be probably the main concern on the defense for the Jayhawks, so those are the two main concerns that I have for this team, but I do expect this team to turn things around this upcoming season, and also because of their schedule. Here is their schedule coming up for 2025. Again, they were 5-7 last year in 2024. So let's go game by game, and I'll give you my official prediction for the Jayhawks for this upcoming season. They start things off with a Week 0 game on August the 23rd. So yeah, they're playing a Week 0 game. They will play Fresno State, a pretty decent quality Group of 5 team. I wouldn't say this will be an easy win here for the Jayhawks, but still, they are clearly the better team. They should be able to take care of business. So I think they will win against Fresno State, but not by a blowout like the Wagner game will be the next week. So I got them winning against Fresno State, and then I got them taking care of business against Wagner here on August 29th. That game will be on a Friday, so that will be a weeknight game there for Kansas. So I got this team starting off 2-0, and then they play a non-conference game on the road at Missouri on September the 6th. Of course, these two teams are no strangers to each other. They used to play each other in the Big 12 Conference, and this was kind of like some kind of rivalry back in the old days, and I think it still is, but this is the first time that they're meeting in, quite some years. So yeah, Missouri is a team that I have a ton of question marks about on the offensive side of the football. I feel like they're going to take a big step back there from where they were in the last couple of years, because Missouri is coming off back-to-back 10-win seasons. It's basically because of their offense. Their defense is decent, but it's mainly because of that offense in the last couple of years. And yeah, defensively, I think this team will be pretty strong. I think Missouri's defense will be able to keep them in this game with Kansas's offense. And I kind of been back and forth on this game. It's just one of those games where it kind of came down to a coin flip here and a 50-50 type ball game. But you look at the roster, I think Missouri has got the better team here more than the Jayhawks, so I think that's also the difference. So I'm going to go Tigers here in this one, but I do expect a close game. It would not shock me if the Jayhawks did win here, but I'm going to go with Missouri to get that win. So I got Kansas losing their first game of the season. That's going to put them at 2-1, and then they get their first bye week of the season before jumping into Big 12 play the rest of the way as well here from September 20th all the way to the end of the season. They do play West Virginia at home here on September 20th. A West Virginia team that I think is going to be pretty solid. They're not going to be a team that's going to contend for the Big 12 or anything like that. This is a team that I feel like will be like an average type team, like right around a 6-6, 7-5 type team. But you look at the two rosters here, I feel like, it's just pretty even. Let's just put it that way. It's just pretty even here between these two teams. So I kind of been back and forth on this game, but I feel like playing at home, that will be enough for the Jayhawks here to open up Big 12 play with a win against the Mountaineers of West Virginia. And also, that bye week kind of gives them time to recover after playing maybe a physical game against Missouri from 2 weeks ago. So I think Kansas does get a bounce back win, and they open up Big 12 play against West Virginia with a win as well. So I got the Jayhawks improving to 3-1. After that, it's another home game against Cincinnati on September 27th. Cincinnati is a team I feel like is going to be a lot more, better compared to where they've been in the last couple of seasons under Scott Satterfield. They definitely kind of, got better as the season progressed last year. So I wouldn't say this will be an easy test here for the Jayhawks. I think it will be a competitive game between these two teams, but I think it's another game where home field advantage will be the difference. So I'm going to say that the Jayhawks do get the win. And again, a lot of these Big 12 matchups are just so dead even, and I think that's going to be the difference here in these two games against West Virginia and Cincinnati here on September 20th and September 27th. So I got the Jayhawks now improving to 4-1. After that, they play a road game at UCF on October 4th. Obviously, Scott Frost taking back over as the head coach here for the Knights. That's obviously the big storyline there. UCF is going to have a lot of new players, and they're going to have a new roster. But, I mean, again, you look on paper here at the two rosters. I feel like the Jayhawks definitely have the better roster, but it's just one of those games. This is the first road test here in the Big 12 for Kansas, and I feel like that could kind of cost them here in this game. It's not always easy playing a road game in the Big 12, and it's also not easy to win like every single game in the Big 12. So I feel like with the Jayhawks coming in a little bit red hot here in this one, I feel like, Kansas is going to come in here a little bit sloppy because, again, it's their first road game. And I think UCF actually does pull off a slight upset here because, again, the Knights don't really have the better roster in my opinion, but I think UCF does pull it off. So I got Kansas losing that game, and that's going to put them now at 4-2. Then it's a road game at Texas Tech on October the 11th. Pretty tough game here for Kansas. I don't know if I see this one being all that close. And yeah, you're probably saying that this should be a pretty close game. But you look at the two rosters. I feel like Texas Tech has the better roster. They added a ton of guys in the transfer portal. They have a lot of production coming back. And I think a lot of people are sleeping on this Texas Tech team. They could be possibly a top 25 team this year. And they also potentially could be a dark horse team in the Big 12 as well. So yeah, this Texas Tech team is a team to keep an eye on. I think the Jayhawks do make this one a pretty close one in the first few minutes, but I think Texas Tech definitely is the better team. So I think the Red Raiders, they do get the win here against the Jayhawks, and I got them losing back-to-back road games here in the month of October. So that's going to be back-to-back losses for the Jayhawks. That's going to put them at 4-3. And then they get their second bye week before playing their rival, Kansas State, on October the 25th. I did my Kansas State prediction back then, and I did say that the Jayhawks really can pull off an upset here, and I think they will. I feel like there's one big win on this schedule this year for the Jayhawks, and it's probably this game here against the Wildcats. Kansas State, on paper, definitely is the better team, but upsets do happen all the time, and they happen a lot here in this conference. There's a lot of parity in this conference and a lot of priority, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, the Jayhawks I feel like will come in fired up, especially after back-to-back games on the road with back-to-back losses, and also they get a bye week before playing this game, so they do get some time to recover, and they also get time to study their rivals. And I feel like this is finally the year that the Jayhawks finally get over the hump, and I think Kansas does pull off the upset. So I'm going to go Jayhawks here to beat Kansas State here on October 25th. That's going to put them at 5-3. And then after that, they play Oklahoma State at home on November 1st. Oklahoma State is a team that I feel like is going to have a ton of question marks this year. They lost so many guys from last year. I just don't know if this team is going to be really that great this year. And yeah, for a disappointing team, it's kind of hard to tell how good this team is going to be. But I think Kansas playing at home, maybe they start off a little bit slow because they do, get off to a slow start basically after celebrating too much with, that win over their rivals from last week. But I think Kansas does pull away. I think they do win this one against Oklahoma State, and I got this team now improving to 6-3. So that's going to put them into a bowl game. But then they play Arizona after that on November 8th, so they do have to travel out west here to Arizona. I feel like Arizona is going to be a little bit of a better team compared to last year in 2025. Not a team that's going to contend for a Big 12 championship or like a dark horse spot or even a top 25 spot, but when you play out west and everything for some of these teams, it really does tend to give teams some trouble. And I have been, predicting some matchups, for teams that have been out west. I kind of been predicting that team that, plays out west is going to pull off an upset. I feel like this will probably be one of those upset alert type games. Again, I feel like Kansas is the better team, but Arizona playing out west, that's a very tough place to play. And I think that's going to cost the Jayhawks here in this one. So I'm going to go Wildcats of Arizona here to pull off a slight upset, just because I feel like, the Jayhawks are the better team. But I got Kansas now falling to 6-4. And then after that, they get their third bye week. Yes, they have 3 bye weeks because they play a week 0 game. They play Iowa State, though, the next game here on November 22nd. This is a game that I don't really expect to be all that close this season. You know, I get it, the Iowa State Cyclones lost a couple of big-time wide receivers from last year, but still, this one is on the road. It's a very tough place to play. I think the Cyclone defense is probably going to be enough here to pull off this win. So, yeah, I don't think the bye week will really help them out. I mean, it probably does help out because you get some time to recover after that trip to out west and everything. So maybe I wouldn't be surprised if the Jayhawks did win here, but I'm going to go with Iowa State because they're playing at home. So that's back-to-back losses also here on the road for Kansas here on November 8th and November 22nd. And then they close things out with Utah at home on November 28th. This will also be on a Friday, so this is their second Friday game, and it's right after the Thanksgiving Day on that Thursday. Utah is a team kind of similar to Oklahoma State. Could have a ton of question marks this year, but this is a well-coached team. I kind of do expect them to turn things around. Again, just so many question marks on both sides of the football, especially offensively. They got to get that quarterback position really straightened out. I think they'll have a good defense, but, the Jayhawks are playing at home. I kind of expect them to bounce back after 2 losses in a row and kind of finish the season definitely a lot stronger compared to last year. So I think the Jayhawks actually do get the win here against Utah, and I got this team closing out the season at 7-5. So that's my prediction here for the Jayhawks. I can definitely see this team possibly going 8-4, maybe 9-3 if they were able to win at least one of those 2 road games against UCF or Arizona. It would not shock me if they win both of them, but it wouldn't shock me either if they did lose both of them or just at least win one of them. But still, I do expect the Jayhawks to bounce back this year. I do expect this team to make it to a bowl game, not be a dark horse team or a top 25 team, anything like that, but I just got this team getting to a bowl game at 7-5. Again, this is a schedule that does set up well for them to possibly make it to a bowl game in 2025 as well. So 7-5 is my prediction for the Jayhawks for 2025. Do you guys agree or disagree with this prediction? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and thank you for watching this video, and stay tuned for more sports content videos on my Lucas Ross Sports YouTube channel.